Sterlin Harjo is here, a filmmaker, showrunner, producer, and writer. You might know him from his groundbreaking series Reservation Dogs, a recipient of the MacArthur Award, recognized for, quote, telling stories about the daily lives of contemporary Native Americans with humor and deep affection. Sterlin's back with a new series called The Lowdown, starring Ethan Hawke as a rough-and-tumble rare bookstore owner and truthstorian in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is sort of based on someone that Sterlin knew in his real life.
People are sleeping through their life. I'm living mine. I'm going to show you how to follow your dreams.
Congrats on the show. I really loved it.
Thank you.
I sort of only know Tulsa through the history books and like having, reading about the history of Tulsa.
Right.
I wonder if we could start out just telling us a little bit about Tulsa. Like Tulsa, as someone who lives there, someone like me who would only read about it, what might I not know about it?
Well, it was founded by Muskogee Creek Native people, which is my people. Tulsa comes from the word Tallahassee, which is a Muskogee word, and that ended up turning into Tallahassee and then Tulsi and then Tulsa. It's just one of those American cities that, another thing you might not know is that there's really great architecture, Art Deco. There's really amazing buildings downtown. It was because there was an oil boom there. It was at one point kind of in competition with Chicago as far as architecture goes. Like, it was almost like a rap battle between Chicago and Tulsa. Yeah, I think Chicago won eventually. But we have a lot of great remnants from that rap battle. But it's just a cool town. It's very diverse. Has a dark history, like a lot of cities. Yeah. And I think that the work that I did when I was working at This Land Press was about. There was a magazine called This Land Press that I worked at, and the person that inspired this character, Lee, was a real guy, which you mentioned. And the work that I was doing there with him and just other documentaries that I was making and the articles that were being written at this long-form magazine sort of media company was about confronting truths in Tulsa. And it was a point in time when the race massacre and things like that. Like Tulsa's also famous for, sadly, a race massacre that happened in an area that was called Black Wall Street. Blocks were burned down, lots of lives lost. And, part of what we did at This Land was face the darkness head on and tell stories about who we were, because there was a period in time when the race massacre would not be talked about. And city officials would not talk about the race massacre. You wouldn't hear about it in schools. So a lot of the work that we were doing was about facing that head on and trying to bring things to light. In turn, I think that, it's like holding a mirror up to yourself. You look at your flaws and your strengths, and you just see you for who you are. And, I think that the truth is healing and freeing and helps kind of give it. When we were working on these documentaries and stories, it helped give Tulsa this identity. And I saw it really change a town, kind of coming together over story and over the truth. It gave people pride in knowing their truth and moving forward and trying to learn from past lessons, I think. And so that was the work that we were doing at This Land that inspired, some of this show.
So I got to follow up on like 12 different things here. So this is great. So the word truth there is interesting as opposed to history. So the character, Ethan Hawke's character, his Lee in the is based on a real guy named Leroy Chapman.
Right.
We'll talk about him in a second. You were working at this long form magazine with him called what was it called again?
It was called This Land Press. It was inspired by Leroy. It's not supposed to be his story. Leroy passed away, but it was kind of inspired by that heart. And I used to ride shotgun with him making these videos. And in a way, that's what I was doing on the shows, riding shotgun with Ethan Hawke and making these videos,
You kept on, Lee in this show calls himself a truthstorian, and not a historian.
Right.
And that feels, I think I first found it funny.
Right.
And then when I started reading about the show and even just hearing you talk about it then, it's making more and more sense to me. That when a city like Tulsa that does have sort of a dark past, and also not unlike any other city, here in Canada too, and also like a dark present. There's all kinds of nefarious things going on. History has a certain kind of meaning.
Right.
You can erase things from history. You can diminish things from history. I mean, we're definitely seeing that in Canada and the U.S. right now. The word truthstorian felt intentional in that way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's history and then there's truth, and sometimes oppressors get to tell history, but who gets to tell the truth?
So you guys were working at this long-form magazine, maybe trying to tell the truth about Tulsa?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of recognizing that a lot of truths hadn't been told. And so we had the freedom to say whatever we wanted to, which was beautiful. And Leroy for sure was like a sort of a master of like Tulsa history, and he knew things that no one knew.
So compelling, man. I was watching videos of him yesterday on YouTube when I sort of got the real story. They're still online.
Yeah, they're still.
Such a compelling, younger guy than I thought he was going to be. Yeah. Such a compelling dude, like such a wealth of knowledge about it. But I could tell how he was sort of one of one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that we meet people like that they kind of infect everyone around them, and it serves as a source of inspiration. I mean, there's a lot of things and people and things in my life that I pull from, and my favorites are the people like Leroy that, like for instance, one time I was watching, one time we were hanging out late, and I showed him a short film that I made that was actually commissioned by the Imaginative Film Festival in Toronto. Dennis Goulet and had put together this sort of group of us with Taika and Black, different filmmakers, and Alamaya and Zoe Hopkins, and all these filmmakers came together, and we sort of challenged each other to make a film. And basically we watched each other's work together and found each other's weaknesses and our strengths and sort of flipped it on each other and put rules on each other. And it's interesting because one of the rules that I had on me were I never worked with kids. And so they were like, you have to work with kids. And I made this film called Three Little Boys, and it's all in the Muskogee language. And we premiered it at the Imaginative Film Festival in Toronto. I was showing that film to him late one night, and we'd been making these videos for a long time. And that film, Three Little Boys, is sort of you could see Reservation Dogs in it. It's a precursor to Reservation Dogs. I showed him this short, and he really just kind of like stopped everything and was just looked at me and was like, you have to do this. Like, stop doing videos with me. He's like, people need to see this. This is what they need to see.
Were you caught between journalism and like more narrative film?
I was caught between making money. I mean, I was an independent filmmaker, and an independent filmmaker from Oklahoma. We didn't have the funding that we have now. We didn't have a hint of funding, and so I didn't know how I was going to make a living. That was why I initially took this job at This Land Press, was to make a living and do what I love to do.
Fair enough.
Turns out, like doing, because I did many documentaries, and doing documentaries is the best training for what I do now, and being a director and knowing how to walk into a room. Like I'm interviewing someone that day or doing a documentary about them. I have to know what the finished product's going to be. I have to learn how to edit in my head. I have to know right when I walk in the room where to put the camera to tell the story best. I also have to know how to get a performance out of this person. You can't just, even with an interview subject, you have to get a performance out of them to make the film. Yeah. And it was just repetition and doing this over and over and over, including the videos I did with Leroy, was like a training ground for TV, so I'm really grateful for that time.
When did that idea sort of come to you that you wanted to do a crime noir set in Tulsa with a journalist at the center of it?
I originally was writing this as a feature, and it was closer to the passing of my friend. And then that script I sort of left and decided I couldn't do that. But, again, like I was inspired by him, and just trying to think of like what is the world lacking right now? And a lot of that is truth, and a lot of, journalists are on the front line of truth and crime, and trying to piece together what is real and what's not real. And that to me was kind of the when I thought of that as a crime show, because through Reservation Dogs, I think I learned to love genre, and I wanted to do something in the noir space, I guess. And so I was like, oh, I have this old, sort of story that I was writing. What if I just kind of take this character, have him that be the inspiration for the main character in this, sort of shout out to my friend, as well as, trying to talk about truth and journalism and, the modern world, and how do we balance trying to tell the truth with, raising our family. I mean, also like, the show is also about a journalist who doesn't get paid a lot and who's finding himself in trouble, but he's also being a dad.
Yeah, I was thinking about that even when you were talking about like, hey, what, did you want to be a documentarian or did you want to be a filmmaker? And you were like, I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
And like, this is not the story of this is not in cold blood. This is not, he's also balancing an ex-wife, a daughter who doesn't really know if she wants to be with him anymore. Like a reputation in the town.
Totally.
It's about the real lives of these people.
Yeah. I mean, like it's essentially like also me at that time period when I was making this thing. Because I had a daughter that was a teenager at the time, and I was like, we lived in crazy situations where it was like our lease is up. A friend of a friend said that we could stay at his place while he's out of town.
Yeah.
And then it's like I'm staying in some guy's house where his furniture is still there and dog hair, and it's like I'm grateful for that, obviously, but like it's just like my daughter was used to kind of new situations and new places. We were always moving,
like solidity,
there was no stability, and but it was like trying to make the best of it and be a good dad while trying to make money and do my art that I wanted to do and be a filmmaker, and
Ethan Hawke plays Lee Raybon, who's based on your friend Leroy Chapman. Been with you since the beginning, right? Like he's been a fan of yours since for a very long time. I think pre-Reservation Dogs, maybe.
Yeah, he and I started writing a project together. It was about adapting. I was going to adapt a graphic novel that he wrote about Geronimo and the Apache Wars. He had a script that he had written, and he couldn't get it made because it was more from the Native perspective of those wars, and he ended up just turning it into a graphic novel. And then my actor / friend, Martin Sensmeyer, introduced me to the book. And then I was like, oh, this would be a great show. So then we met with Ethan. Ethan was into my idea of adapting it. And so I was adapting it into a show. So then we wrote together, started writing together. And that's what really happened was we started writing together, became friends. And then he loved Reservation Dogs and was like, if you have anything for me, let me know. And I was like, well, I'll write you in real quick as Laura's dad. From there, our friendship just grew, and then I sent him this script and yeah.
I heard something that like he doesn't take on things that he doesn't read, but he did it in this case.
The point is he read this pilot, but the point was he hadn't read the rest of the show.
Right.
And he signed on to do the rest of the show. And so that was something that he had never done before, which was kind of, have faith that this is going to turn out okay and trust this kid from Oklahoma,
Before Reservation Dogs, you were at the end of you said something, I thought I was at the end of my career. I thought my career was over. I read that quote with you before.
I didn't know what to do. I mean, I had no, I didn't know how to make money doing this. Yeah, it was just getting kind of exhausting. And I didn't know, I was like trying to start a nonprofit, I had friends in the Northwest that I traveled through some areas, and there were like nonprofits it was like organizations where they were like teaching young Native kids like kind of how to get back into salmon fishing and harvesting and things. Yeah. And I was trying to do something outdoors like that because I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make a living doing movies. I'd been to the Sundance Labs, I'd met some cool people, and then it just wasn't. I just didn't know what to do. And then I started working in TV. This showrunner, Doug Jung, gave me my first job. And I was like, oh, maybe I was like a producer. And I was like, maybe there's work in TV, So I sort of switched gears, and I got my first agents at that time and manager. And I switched gears and just started trying to do TV.
Did you have that film in the background? Had that already been done? The one you said that was sort of the genesis, like maybe the early
Yeah,
days
it was a long time ago. It was probably 6 years before or so.
Yeah.
And I was showing that to Leroy, and he was like, "You should make
Yeah.
like the world needs to see this stuff."
Yeah.
You know, he just recognized that people hadn't seen Native people like that necessarily in media. You know, and he encouraged me to do that, which later sort of became an inspiration for Reservation Dogs. But again, and my friend Taika Waititi was out in LA, and I started taking more meetings in LA. I was doing better. I was selling shows. And one point he was like, "Hey, if you have any ideas, I have this overall deal at FX. Let me know." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I got ideas. I got lots of ideas." And he and I kind of basically we put together we used to read each other's scripts, and we had two ideas that were similar about young people, and we just sort of put it together, and it became the pilot of Reservation Dogs.
Was there a moment you knew that it had started to work?
No, not until it started coming out, you know? And I was like, wow, I think this is good. Because I've been doing this for a long time, and I didn't change what I was doing. I still did the same thing. It's just I had a bigger budget now. I didn't know if people would like it, but I just knew that I had one shot, and I was to swing for the fences and, you know, go big or go home, because it's like that Eminem song, you know, like one shot. Like, I got to really go for it.
You were eating spaghetti.
Exactly. It was on my shirt.
Yeah. I saw a picture. People were calling you Rabbit.
Right.
Let me just pick up on what you said there. You were like, I was working with Taika. Taika had already done Flight of the Conchords at this point. Like, he had a lot of Taika Waititi. He had a lot of like buzz around him. He got a deal, and he says, "Do you want to tell a story?" And you say, "Okay, I got the story I want to tell."
It was around Thor time. He'd either just done Thor or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, "This is my shot. Like, this is when I'm going to get an opportunity to do something." This is a big moment for me potentially.
I didn't know that, but it was my friend, and Taika and I are friends, you know, and I never ever wanted the relationship to be work, or asking for my successful friend for anything, you know. But, you know, we love each other and like each other's work, and there was this opportunity, and, I took it. Like, I thought, you know, I didn't think this was going to change my life. I thought, oh, well, yeah, I have an idea. Maybe they would like it, you know?
When was the moment you knew it had changed your life? When was the moment you knew that now that it's out, it's starting to have legs. It's starting to be, you know?
To be honest, after the first season came out, and I started seeing the memes that were coming out with Reservation Dog characters and stuff, and
that's the sign, right? It's not reviews, and it's like
the memes.
It's because
like the culture is grabbing hold of this, you know.
Yeah.
And I just saw everyone in Indian country, and First Nations. I'm in Canada, and I just felt like everyone just put our chests out a little more. It was like our head came up. It's like there's a show that's representing us, you know. And I could feel that love from people. And that love fueled a lot of what I kept doing and keep going, because it's hard, you know. It's not like an easy job. Like, there's always something, you know, that's hard, and you have to sort of protect the thing that you're making and keep moving forward, I think. And I think that, you know, the memes started coming out, and I felt like, oh, like, people like this. Like, it's making people proud, you know, and it's like proud to. I think because, again, truth, and like, it's about the truth of our communities and like what life is like, you know. We're funny and we can joke, and sometimes things are sad, and sometimes people pass away, and sometimes you have to recover from that, and sometimes you use humor to do that, and sometimes you use humor to survive, you know.
And things are never one thing. One emotion is never one emotion,
right?
You know?
Right. I think the complexities in showing that in our community was something that gave people a sense of pride about where they're from. You know, I thought a lot about like kids in remote reservations and communities being able to turn on a TV, and even if they didn't have Hulu, but see it on Facebook, you know, memes, and like, wow, like people are like talking about my life and where I'm from. I mean, that reflection, again, like being able to hold a mirror up to yourself and just see yourself in something, and just say, like, you know, like I saw my face in the, you know, like I looked in the lake water and I saw my reflection. I mean, that had to be a big deal when somebody's first time to do that, you know. And it's like, being able to see yourself on screen and some of the things that you deal with and know that you're not alone. I mean, it's a huge impact that like, it's hard to even calculate what effect that had. I don't even know, because I didn't grow up with that as a kid, you know. I had to go to shows that reflected other cultures to really find the human aspects of it that I could relate to, but nothing from my community.
But what's so profound about that to me, just to put a pin in it, like, is that, you know, typically when I ask that question about, hey, when did you know? And it's like, oh, you know, I got recognized in the street, or, you know, or like, hey, the ratings were good and we got picked up for another season. And no disrespect to that. Again, we got to make money and we got to do it. I think I don't have a question, but that's a really profound answer, that like the way you measured the success for that show was just that kids, like Indigenous kids, felt pride.
The work that I do is very meaningful to me, and a lot of it's personal. And I don't know that I could waste time telling stories that I didn't care about and that weren't going to help people and weren't going to kind of have some sort of effect and reflect people's truth and honesty. I don't know. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we telling stories if we're not trying to impact people in some sort of positive way, even if it's reflecting darkness to people? Like it's like a blues song, you know, you get love from that, you get healing from that.
I'm glad you said that, because that was a question I wanted to ask you about the Lowdown and about Reservation Dogs, is that like they've both been called love letters, like both love letters to like where you grew up, love letters to where you're from. As a filmmaker, like, or as a storyteller, or even as a journalist, what's the trick to balancing like a love letter to a place while also being honest about the place? Because I'm from Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada, and a bell just went off because I mentioned it in every interview. So someone just took a shot somewhere. But someone's getting very drunk off the show today. It's very idyllic. Like, people really romanticize it, and people turn it, it's beautiful coastal, you know, by the sea. But my favorite things about it is when it's not just the darkness that really lurks underneath, but also not just the beauty and the light and the beautiful things. But I think that's a hard balance, and I think you do that really well. What's the trick to doing a love letter to a place you're from while also being honest about it?
Well, I think it is showing the dark side, like, and balancing that, because, you know, if you're just showing how idyllic it is, you know, it rings false sometimes. I think that you have to be honest about the good and the bad. And I've done this my whole career. Like, I'm making shows in my backyard. I'm making movies in my backyard. Like, I'm literally making TV shows where I live, you know. And shout out to Tulsa and all my crew. But like, I also bring people from out of town, you know, to come and work there. And there's something really beautiful that happens when they come. They're first, they're like, where am I? You know, like,
I know,
like, where am I?
Yeah.
And where's the coffee bean? You know? But what happens is by week 2, everyone gets into this groove with everyone in Oklahoma and Tulsa, because it's different, you know, it's a different place. And, you know, everyone just vibes, and everyone, you know, feels like they just fall in love with it by the end, you know. And my crew, we just have so much fun, you know, balancing the darkness and really being honest about the place helps. I mean, and you know, some of that's evident. Oh, and I bring people from the outside to really look at it because they haven't seen it, and I like having that energy as well. So I like having a balance of people that are from home, but people that are outside, just so you're kind of in check. If you're like, oh, look at this tree. Isn't this the most amazing tree you've ever seen? Let's film this tree. And they're like, no, we're from the redwoods. We have such cooler trees.
Yeah, right.
So you just got to, you know, like, people keep you honest in things. You know?
How was getting the MacArthur Grant? I know I'm not supposed to call it the Genius Grant.
Yeah. Why?
Well, thank you for saying that. Do you understand how many people first off, what a brag on my part. Do you understand how many MacArthur Genius recipients we've had on the show? But I've often been told, like, you can't call it the Genius Grant.
I jokingly call it that because my friends give me shit about it. Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want. Once you win the MacArthur Genius Grant, you can curse on public radio.
One of my favorite things is, like, you know, you would think you're getting congratulated a lot. No, I just get roasted about it.
Tell me, what do you mean?
I mean, I walk in a room, it's like, oh, here's the genius. You know, it's like, you know, like, especially like right after that happened, it's like, oh God, his head's big now. Like, he's got the MacArthur Grant. I mean, it was wonderful to get that, you know. I'm a big Cormac McCarthy fan, and that's kind of the first time I'd ever heard of this grant. So getting it was an honor, and, you know, really awesome.
What did your folks make of it?
They're proud. But I mean, you know, I have 2 shows now, and, you know, my mom will still say things like, I wish you would have stayed in college and got your degree. You know, yeah. Or like, I remember like one of my first TV jobs I almost was a director on was like something like Chicago Fire or something, which like those are great shows, whatever, but they're just not the shows that I make, and it's procedural and they're quick and, you know, it's kind of a meat grinder. And I almost directed one, but then my son was born and I couldn't do it. And it was like last year. My dad's like, yeah, like after Reservation Dogs, after the MacArthur, all of this stuff, and my dad's like, yeah, I wish you could have done that job, that Chicago Fire or whatever. And I was like, I have shows. Like, what are you talking about?
I've done pretty much as good as you possibly can here, for God's sake.
No, they're proud though. I mean, like, you know, it's all exciting.
Can I only got like a minute left? Can you give me? I just put in the minute we have left. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to share a memory of Graham Greene, Canadian legend.
Oh man,
he's going to be in the new season of the Lowdown
show,
and was in guest starred in Reservation Dogs as well. You got a memory of Graham you can share? Yeah,
I mean, Graham was just you know, first it was such a huge loss, but he left so much for all of us, and what a legend, and he changed the world and paved the way for, you know, people, like I said, like young natives sort of seeing Reservation Dogs and seeing themselves reflected. I saw Graham when I was a child, you know, and Graham was what made me feel like I wasn't alone. Graham, you know, you'll see in the show, he's got his hat kind of cocked to the side the whole time. And someone asked him, like, what, you straighten your hat out real quick. He said, no. And he's like, well, you want your hat like that? He's like, yeah. He's like, and he's like, you know, the lighting guys don't have to kill themselves to light my face. Oh, so he was doing it for the light, and it's just like, what a professional, you know, what a pro, man. You know, and he had it all worked out with his character. It was beautiful, but it was a pleasure to be around him.
Thanks for coming in, man. Yeah. Congratulations on the show. Yeah. We'll have you back again sometime.
Yeah, man.
And I'll get to talk to a genius a little bit longer.
Thank you.